We all have a story to tell. Let's tell yours. Welcome to the Intellectual People Podcast with your host, Jason. Come together and listen to journey stories and more from interesting people. Welcome your host, Jason.
Today on the Intellectual People Podcast, I have Erin from Georgia Crafted. How are you today, Erin?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Very well, thank you. What is Georgia Crafted?
So Georgia Crafted is essentially a premier one-stop shop, all online, for products made here in the state of Georgia. So that's going to be everything from food to bath and body products to home goods. You know, your food products are going to be things that might be what we call Georgia grown. So it could be, you know, locally grown pecans, honey, beef jerky, fun snacks, not necessarily grown here, but, you know, snacks made here, cheese straws, bacon cheddar pretzels that we just got in stock, some flavored cashews, things of that nature. We also carry bath and body products. So that's pretty obvious, but your typical, you know, different soaps that are handmade to lip balms. And then over to home goods. So that's going to be maybe some fun kitchen towels or candles, you know, coffee mugs, whatever, you know, might happen to fall into the home good category. We started the company really just to give people an opportunity to shop local. When we started Georgia Crafted, shopping local really wasn't something that people talked a lot about. You know, this was 7.5 years ago. Now you don't go through a day probably without hearing the term. And our whole concept was how can we shine light on small local artisans or makers around the state, all while giving people, whether it's individuals or companies, a great opportunity to give a gift.
Is this something that you thought about for many years before actually starting it?
No, actually. So I had worked for a marketing agency probably for about 12 or 13 years, something like that. Our kids at that point were only about 1.5 and 3.5 one evening. I think it was a Tuesday evening, if I'm not mistaken. This was back in May of 2013. We had put the girls to bed and, you know, came downstairs. I poured a glass of wine and we started talking about just the fact that I had a 2.5-hour commute round trip. And things were just, you know, for one, we were really in the thick of it with young children at that point. But on top of that, you know, we felt like something needed to give. And so my husband and I started brainstorming different business ideas. And he eventually said, I just wish that we could have our own business and something for us to run and something to grow. And quite frankly, I did not know what that meant. So I turned to him and I said, I don't know what that means. Like, are we buying a franchise? Are we inventing a product that we're going to launch? Are we buying an existing business? And he in turn said, no, really in my mind, I picture us having some form of an e-commerce business. He comes from the world of operations and logistics, and I come from the marketing end. And so there was something about him just simplifying it, I guess, and saying an e-commerce business that a light bulb went off. And I said, okay. And I said, well, here's my thing is that I have to be passionate about whatever it is that we're selling and shipping. While I think that I could probably sell coffee mugs all day long, I'm not necessarily passionate about coffee mugs. So why don't we maybe come up with an idea where we can help promote small local businesses? And I made the recommendation that we look at maybe starting a subscription box because those were just starting to become popular. And I said, we could feature products that are made right here in Atlanta. And he said, why would you just limit yourself to Atlanta? Why don't you do the whole state of Georgia? And that was it. May of 2013.
That's how it started.
That's how it started.
How successful has it been?
Well, it's been fantastic. I mean, we came up with the concept in May of 2013. We launched the website September 3rd of 2013. So really just a handful of months later. I think that I knew it was a good idea. And I was terrified that somebody else was going to somehow swoop in those few months and get this thing off the ground. And so I knew we had to run for it. So we did. I actually ended up quitting my job a couple weeks after we launched the website, not because orders were flooding in while we were getting orders. It was more so from the angle of, if you're going to do this, you can't have one foot in and one foot out. So go for it. So I went for it. And, obviously it took some time to gain some traction. But what we realized very, very quickly was that, you know, it wasn't just about subscriptions. It turns out that there was a whole market of people out there that wanted to be able to send gifts, whether it's a birthday gift, whether it's a hostess gift, whatever it was, or even client gifts. They wanted those to be something that was easily accessible. So we started our model as shipping once a month, as a true traditional subscription box company was. And it wasn't until probably a month after we shipped our first box, I received a phone call from a customer who said she had received a gift box. She loved it, but she wanted to bring a hostess gift that weekend to a friend that she was going over for a party or something. And I was like, oh, that's great. Sorry, you can't do that. I'll have products ready in about 3 weeks. And then I hung up the phone and I thought, well, that was really stupid. So why don't we just have a whole, whether it's a themed gift box section, maybe it's different products that we curate and people can build their own gift box. We need to make that accessible because clearly there is a market of people that want locally grown products. Since then, to get back to your original question, we've really become the largest curator of products made in Georgia. So we carry, I don't know the exact number. I mean, there's got to be probably over 200 different products that we carry. Some of those might be, if we're carrying, pecans, well, we might have 4 flavors of pecans. So that, of course, makes up 4 of the 200, not 200 different makers. But we ship nationwide. We have really just developed this fantastic reputation of, not only a great curator, but we put together these excellent gift boxes. We have great customer service. And I think so far it's gone really well.
Great. So how was the reception with the artists that you're buying product from? And how did that work?
So I always laugh at this story because we came up with this concept, it's like Tuesday night or whatever. And it was probably a week and a half later, my husband and I, we were going to go visit his family in Pittsburgh for Memorial Day weekend. And we drove. So it's about a 12-hour drive. And I spent the bulk of our drive going, on my phone, trying to go through Etsy and do these Google searches and find products that made sense. And there was it was a white peach vanilla soap that I had found on Etsy. So we get back in town, after we brainstormed, we came up with the name Georgia Crafted. And I thought, all right, this is it. I'm going to email this woman. And maybe if I'm lucky, she will let me buy her product, which was really a silly mentality. Why wouldn't she let me buy her product? Right. So I emailed this woman named Carla. And I think I was actually getting ready for bed when I sent her the email. And I remember it couldn't have been 10 minutes. And this woman wrote me back and her email said, I think I still have it to this day, but it said, squeal. Like that she literally typed out the word squeal, but she dragged it out. And she's like, OMG, this is the best thing I've ever heard. Of course you can buy my product. And I remember I turned to my husband. I'm like, oh my gosh, she wants me to buy her product. And he's like, duh. But, so I just right off the bat, I could tell there was a market there. And since then, a lot of it in the beginning was how can I find these products? Again, it was these random Google searches and Etsy searches and whatever. And I got lucky enough, we launched in September. That following January, I was at a gift show down in downtown Atlanta. It's one of the biggest gift shows in the country. And I'm walking the floor and I happened to meet a Georgia vendor and he ended up saying, hey, hold up. I have some people to introduce you to. And so it just so happened the timing could not have been better because we have our Georgia Department of Agriculture. And within the Georgia Department of Agriculture, there is essentially, you call it a program, but it's called Georgia Grown. And so not the whole team, but a few people from the Georgia Grown team were on the floor of this gift show. So Clint, I believe is his name, he took me over to introduce me to a couple of these folks. And it turns out they had already heard of Georgia Crafted. I was only 5 months in, but I guess word started spreading pretty quick because they're huge. I mean, that's their job, is to advocate and promote local products. And here I'm doing the same thing. We're not in competition, obviously, but we're on the same playing field. So we formed a partnership where we put together a gift box. The idea was that we would put together a gift box with their logo on it. And in turn, they would then send out an email to their, I want to say at the time it was 30,000 email subscribers, essentially announcing Georgia Crafted.
Right.
That opened the floodgates. So many people that had never, makers, artisans that had never heard of our company, hey, banging down the door, so to speak, on how do I get into a Georgia Crafted box? And we still get email requests, phone calls, obviously on not a daily basis, but a regular basis.
So instead of you having to chase them down, they're now starting to come to you.
That's exactly right.
Does it make it easier for you?
Yes, of course. I don't have to do so much legwork, which is fantastic. Now, sometimes it can get challenging because then you're having to spend a lot of time managing requests and reviewing products, but that's the fun of it, right? I mean, our whole job is to find these local products and shine light on them. So really, I would say it's definitely easier than me doing it.
So how do you evaluate a product?
Well, if it's a food product, we have a whole team here that, they love to sample. So it really comes down to, do we like it? If I don't like a product, and it's pretty rare that I don't like a product, but if there's a product I don't like, I'm going to have a hard time selling it. I have too much of a honest personality. I have zero poker face. So if someone said, well, how is blah, blah, blah? And I can't put on a front. So, we'll get in new products. We all try to sample them. I think a great example is last week, there's a gentleman who, he does his own smoked sea salts, all different flavors. And he was so kind to send us just a ton of samples. And we just dispersed them, amongst the team and said, go home and cook, spend the next few days in the kitchen, see what you think. And then from there, we were able to collectively make a decision on what we personally think, what we think will sell well.
What are some of your favorites?
Okay, all-time bestseller, Southern cheese straws. They are cheddar, just deliciousness. Cheese straws traditionally are like, they're little sticks, and these are really more fluffy cheese squares. They're like the shape and the size of a Cheez-It, but they're fluffy and not stale tasting. All-time, by far, bestseller.
Really?
Yeah, they're so good. Cinnamon sugar pecans from Good Slim Pecans. They're fantastic. They are definitely the bestseller. And then behind that, I would say our kettle corn. It comes out of Statesboro. I never thought I would like kettle corn, and it's phenomenal. And then that would then also go into salted caramel peach spread, which is, almost like a jelly or a jam. It's more of a jelly texture, but it's this salted caramel peach, which is just really good on a piece of toast, or it's really good over some sliced cheese, as a good appetizer. So those are probably our 4 all-time best-selling products and my personal favorites.
Do you ever visit the makers?
I do, obviously not so much lately, but in the past, yes, I would absolutely either visit. I spent the first few years, I would do all the pickups. So I would go and pick up the product. I didn't want to have to pay for the shipments to come my way. And it would give me an opportunity to meet these people and, build those relationships. And so in certain occasions, I still do that. Other times I try to make it a point to attend events that I know that they're going to be at. If there's a Georgia grown show or a gift show or whatever the case may be, that always gives us a good opportunity, to visit.
Thank you. And post-COVID, when we get back to flea markets and all, will you be attending those? Is that a big part of the business?
Yep. So farmers markets, I would try to attend farmers markets regularly. Not only does it give me an opportunity to see those makers that we already work with, but also naturally to source new products as well. But no question. I think as soon as everyone starts getting back out again, although farmers markets are still going on here, not right now just because it's cold and wet, but up until probably late fall, early winter, we were still trekking down the road to the farmers market.
Very cool. And I saw a post, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you had 6,000 shipments go out for the holidays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We had a banner holiday season. And then it's not even just the gift boxes. Like a lot of people hear, 6,000, that's great. But it's, that ended up being over 50,000 different products that we pulled off the shelves, that we personally packed. and got into the hands of people literally all over the country. We hit, in the month of December, we shipped to 48 states.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Have you gotten a lot of feedback from your makers in how you have changed their lives?
So I received an email from, there's a candle maker that we started working with a couple of years ago. And I was a little, I don't want to say hesitant to work with them, but it was a pricier item than what we're accustomed to. A lot of our products, like I mentioned, we predominantly sell snacks. And so, our price points are all pretty low. Well, then you get into some of these home goods, and these candles they're luxury candles. They're beautifully designed and they run about $22, which was a little bit higher end than what we would normally carry. So anyway, he sent me an email just about a week ago and he said, I just wanted to thank you because you were our best customer in all of 2020, especially a year where these guys thought, this is it, we're going to have to fold. And we ended up purchasing nearly 1,000 candles from them, which is,
wow,
a considerable amount of money for them.
Absolutely.
So we've, and there's some companies that we've worked with where they might be bigger makers and we might barely put a dent in their bottom line. But at the same time, everybody seems to recognize that we're out there, really trying to hit the pavement from a grassroots marketing style and spread the word about Georgia products.
Do you find, Erin, that most of the makers do it out of passion and to share something that they have created, never thinking that they would now be a large brand that is associated with even a larger distributor, if you can?
Yeah. No question about it. I think almost all of these guys started out like that. A lot of these people, they just want to, they have a passion for, I'm trying to think here. I'm looking around at some of the products that we carry as a good example, but I think the answer is yes. I met a new vendor yesterday. We just started, we haven't put it on the website yet, but it's a new type of cookie that we discovered. And she told us, they actually, in their case, they bought the business just to have a little bit of additional revenue, having no idea what kind of exposure they were going to get from some of the different channels that they've looked at. And I think that that's the case for a lot of these people. A lot of the makers that we work with, they all have full-time jobs. This is what they do on the side. So then that's even kind of fun to think, well, it's a side hustle for them. Right. And we're helping really, drive that side hustle.
So where does Georgia Crafted go from here?
So we get asked that question almost daily. Are we going to branch out of Georgia? And the answer has always been no. I mean, we're in Georgia. There's so much to be had in Georgia. Why are we suddenly going to branch out? And we decided 2021 is the year. We're branching out. I think Georgia Crafted will always be Georgia Crafted. We have such a good brand recognition. We've done a great job from that standpoint. Our marketing team has. But I think that soon we're going to be making a really fun announcement of maybe a national brand.
Wow.
Spin-off. So the word crafted will still be involved, but we've got a fun spin to what we think is going to be coming out soon.
Very, very cool. And do you have any idea when that'll be?
So I'm hoping, the goal would be probably by third quarter by the time we get everything up and running. But we have a name secured and a URL secured, but we've got a lot of additional work that needs to take place before we can start making any announcements. But I hope by third quarter, absolutely by fourth quarter, no question.
Excellent. Well, Erin, I do appreciate you showing up. Please like, watch, subscribe to not only this channel, please go visit georgiacrafted.com. And if you have any questions, ask Erin.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Find us on YouTube and Facebook at The Intellectual People Podcast and online at theintellectualpeoplepodcast.com. Check back for exciting new episodes.